Hey, what's up? This is Josh McKelvie. You're watching or listening to Mikey's Untitled Show.
Welcome to Mikey's Untitled Music Show. Today we are going to get into the musical mind of artist Josh McKelvie. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing great, Mikey. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. You're following me along. You're following along with me in this musical journey, and it's still pretty new, but it's a good ride so far, bro. So thank you so much for allowing me to have this conversation with you. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Of course, of course. Excuse me. So you know, what I when I look for music and I find artists, I really like to get into, where your musical creativity comes from. Listen to your music. I really want to get into kind of like the mindset of the artist and
Hmm.
where it all comes from, right? And I feel like we can do that really well by, kind of going a little back a little bit and talking about your story. So, can you tell me of one of the maybe one of the earliest memories you have of using your creativity as your musical creativity, I should say, for one of like your own projects?
Um, yeah. Well, as far as the first time like I created my own stuff would be when I was 15. I started a band with my brother Jake, who also plays, and my best friend from high school. We had a power trio going. I was on drums. And that was the first time that I ever did kind of my own musical thing where my own project. Like I did the school band. I learned a lot, about the, basics of music in the school band. But as far as doing like my own project or our own project where, we wrote the songs and we really, kind of flexed our creative muscles for the first time. That was our first band when I was 15. Um, yeah.
And what did you do in that band? What instrument did you play? Did you play an instrument or did you just sing?
I played drums in that band. I grew up as a drummer first and foremost.
Okay. And what made you start with the drums rather than another instrument?
Um, I don't know if I can. It was just like what I wanted to do. Like for as long as I can remember. Like I remember being a very little kid and drumming on the butter tubs at the grocery store. And my parents gave me a little like kid's Mickey Mouse drum kit when I was very little. And it's one of the earliest like pieces of music I can remember loving is the theme song from the old George of the Jungle cartoon, which is just like basically all drums.
Yeah.
So for as long as I can remember, I was just like fascinated with drums and beating on shit and making noise that way. And I was determined to get a drum set. So when I was 8, my uncle gave me an old like kid sized drum kit that he had kicking around in his basement, and that was like kind of where I got started. Finally had something to hit, and I would just go down there and just hit on it. And then the following year, I joined the school band as percussionist and started actually learning how to do it, correctly, so that I could actually make music instead of just noise.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's kind of my dad. He gave my brother, well, we didn't grow up together, but I mean, when they were younger, he gave my brother and my guitar and my younger brother a drum set as well. And they
Mm.
had this like rock band, and but it's cool that you had that interest in you, or that, like, I guess, like, confident, or like they gave you that avenue to it. Maybe it was your parents, it was your uncle, it was your family that helped you find that next thing, or that thing that you love. And what do you think they saw, or did they do you think they just saw a little kid who just really wanted to bang on some drums?
I think that's exactly what they saw. Yeah, like my parents have always been very supportive of anything that I want to do. And me and my siblings, they just want us to be happy and successful in whatever way we choose. So when I was a little kid, I was obsessed with baseball. My dad would coach the team, and parents would be at every game. And then when I was in high school is when I made the big pivot and started really focusing on music. And to this day, my parents come to every show that they can make it out to, and they're always my biggest cheerleaders and my biggest supporters. So I think it just really boiled down to they knew I wanted to learn the drums, and so they made sure it could happen.
That's amazing. So then you start practicing on the drums. Yeah, I'm sure you get a bigger drum set later on in life,
Yep,
right? And
yep.
so you start this band, or you're in this band as a drummer. What led you to picking up a guitar and making like song lyrics?
Um, well, I think I started. I'd always like kind of jotted lyrics down. I'm a big reader and a big just kind of fan of the written word.
Hmm.
Um, so I always kind of had that kind of thing in me as well. And in that first band with my brother, uh, for the most part, just played the drums. I didn't do a lot of songwriting in that band, but like near the end of the run of that band, I started to jot down some lyrics, and I think I wrote one or two songs that we might have dabbled with. I don't remember if they ever became like regulars in the set or anything, but I started doing it around then. And my brother played guitar, so there were guitars around the house, and I always wanted to like try that. Like for a long time, I was like a drummer who kind of secretly dreamt of getting out from behind the kit and singing some songs, but I never had the confidence in it. So I played drums exclusively from that first band when I was 15 for like a decade until I was in my mid 20s. And kind of that whole time, like drums came very natural to me. Guitar did not. It was a very much an uphill battle to get even like proficient on guitar. So kind of like the whole time I was playing drums, I was kind of in secret picking up a guitar and beating away at it and trying to figure little bits out, at a time. It took me about a decade to feel confident enough where I thought I might be able to actually get out and sing songs and stuff. And the big motivator for that was that I love writing more than anything. What I came to discover as I progressed in my musical, journey and career is as much as I love playing the drums, what I truly love to do is write songs. And in my experience, when you're the drummer in a band, they don't want to hear your songs. They just want you to shut up and play the drums. And I would pitch songs to a bunch of the bands I was in over the years, and they would just kind of like, yeah, it's cool, man. There's like a Family Guy joke where Ringo writes a song for the Beatles, and they're like,
Oh
"We're gonna
yeah.
put it right up on the fridge," and that's how I felt all the time. Like, nobody
Yeah.
ever took me seriously, and I got frustrated, and I was like, you know what, like, screw it, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna write the songs myself like I want to, and I'll sing them myself, and that way nobody has the right to tell me no. So that was kind of the big motivator, for the switch.
And what do you think it was that got you that confidence that actually got you over that hump to start doing it? Was it just I'm just tired of people not kind of like paying attention to me or taking me serious? Was that one big thing?
That was a big part of it. And I think also just like I said, like in drips and drabs over the years, I figured out little bits on the guitar, and I got more and more comfortable with my voice. And I was doing a lot of, bedroom acoustic guitar singing. And then when I went to college, I was in my dorm room, and like I kind of gradually started like getting a couple of like, at a party, there was a guitar. I picked it up and had the confidence to just play something and like got a good reaction. And then people started, here and there saying like, "Hey man, you sound pretty good." And I started to, it takes a while. People have to tell you things like that for a while before you start to actually believe it.
Mhm.
People keep telling, "Hey, that sounds pretty good," and then at some point you start to actually think maybe they're right. Maybe I might be able to do this. Um, and so I think it's kind of, it comes from within, and it also comes from without. Like you build confidence in yourself, and eventually you feel comfortable enough to pick up that guitar at the party and try to stumble through whatever cover you've been learning recently, and then you do it, and it doesn't, you don't get laughed out of the room, and maybe you get like something resembling a compliment, and then you start to feel a little better about it, and that motivates you the next time that opportunity arises. And plus, like I was always in musical settings. Like I had confidence as a musician generally. It just took a long time to build the confidence, like specifically like with a guitar in my hands and with a mic in my face.
Who are some of your musical influences growing up?
The first band I ever fell in love with was Kiss.
Mm.
That was one of the first CDs I can remember taking off my dad's CD shelf and listening to with Kiss. I'm still a huge Kiss fan. And then kind of I listened to so much stuff. Like today, I listen to everything. There's no genre I don't touch or whatever. But as I grew up, I did a lot of classic rock stuff, a lot of Led Zeppelin and things like that. And then when I was in high school, I fell in love with Blink 182, who to this day remain my favorite band of all time. Um, and at the time, playing drums, I was hugely influenced by Travis Barker. And then that got me really into like pop punk. And then as I kept exploring like just punk in general, and that's kind of in high school, I really kind of found myself in like the punk subculture. Um, and that's like as I've grown and I grow into all these other things, and I like so much stuff, and I definitely feel like the music I'm making now is purely pop punk the way a lot of what I've done in the past is, but like that's always kind of like the root and like the foundation of like everything I do is like I'm a pop punk yeah, can't talk, a pop punk kid at heart, and it all kind of like comes from that regardless of what it ultimately ends up being.
Yeah, it's funny how like me, I started with um like Metallica, Michael Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
pop top 40 stuff because
Yeah,
we had
yeah,
like the radio and stuff, right? When I was young,
exactly.
like we had the radio, so you would
Yeah.
do the radio shows and you would listen to the top 20 countdown, the top 40 countdown, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you got your music. Like, I mean, that's how like most of the world got their music, right? Of course, there
Yeah.
was people go to like record stores, like CD stores, like things like that, cassette stores when the record stores were out or were up with cassettes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like I first started like I think that first evolution of like getting to pop punk, like Blink 182, like when Good Charlotte first came out, when
Mm-hmm.
Simple Plan first came out,
Yep.
like all through that. Hoobastank was also part of that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like Linkin Park, like that
Yep.
started it started this whole like especially I remember Linkin Park. Linkin Park when it was like, okay, who's this kid? He looks like so young and he has like such a strong voice and Chester,
Yeah.
rest in peace. And then but like yeah, you have like these other like alt kind of alt rock um like starting to happen, and then you get into like Census Fail and Seosin and like those kinds, and it kind of just like transformed from that over that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy how like it's coming it's always been here, right? But I feel like in the last 5 years there's been kind of like this resurgence, like this big
I
resurgence
agree.
that when we were young fest first came out. Me and my wife
Yep.
actually went to three of them. Like we, and then Warp Tour, we went to the last show, the second to the last Warp Tour, and then like a few years later, like it's already coming back because of like I'm sure of popular demand. I'm sure that we're gonna
Yeah.
have Warp Tours as well. But what do you think it is that, started that resurgence?
Um, well, I think a lot of it boils down to like, I mean, I think for one thing, corporations have figured out that nostalgia sells.
Mm.
Like Warp Tour is coming back, but now it's owned by Live Nation, like everything else is.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it. I hate to say is a lot of shameless cash grabbing.
Hmm.
It's they know that they could, those of us who grew up on that stuff are all, in our 30s, 40s with, you know, careers and disposable income now and can, if they see a poster
Yeah.
with every band they loved when they were 15 on it, they're going to pay whatever they have to get to that show.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely part of it, but like to, in a less cynical sense, it's just that I think that music just touched a lot of people. It speaks to a lot of people. It's honest, it's emotional, and I know so many people. The people who love that music love it because they hear themselves in it and they identify with it. And they, it helps them through the dark times and so forth. So, I think um, a big that's a big part of it. I think that if people are just like, especially with how dark everything is really in the world today. I think people are just looking backwards, and they just want to feel like that, that thing they felt when they were kids, and found something they loved, and like that feeling, and being at those shows, like I think we all want to feel like we're at Warped Tour again. We'll all do what we have to get there. And I think you have to give credit where credit is due. Say what you want about him, but Machine Gun Kelly really kind of led that charge with the Tickets to My Downfall album. Whether you like or hate that album, like nobody was really talking about pop punk until he did that. Like it's kind of always survived like in the deep underground for the past 50 or so years since it fell off the mainstream. But he kind of got people talking about it like on a more mainstream level again. And I think that helps a lot of the other bands you see now, like the Paradox and Magnolia Park, and those bands that are starting to get buzz. Um, you know, Kind of just shine a light on pop punk, in a way that it hadn't for a while. And that's kind of like I've been feeling for a long time. Like somebody's going to do that. Like there's so much good pop punk still being made. Like it deserves a broader audience than it's getting. And so it's awesome to see that starting to take place in some sense.
Yeah, and you're not the first one who says that, or that I've heard say that MGK was like a big a big reason why this started coming up again. Because yeah, like you have
Yeah,
such a big name going to kind of like putting himself in that genre. And people were like, okay, well, what is this genre? I guess these younger kids kind of like, okay, well, he's saying he's this. What is this, right? So it's kind of
right.
bringing back a spotlight to these all these other bands and their old music. And I think it's cool. It's kind of, yeah, it's become generational.
Yeah, yeah. I love
Um,
going to a show and seeing like a little 5,
yeah,
10 year old kid there, seeing it pass on the next generation. And there's kids that I see that are in high school now that are listening to Blink and starting pop
yeah,
punk bands and stuff, and it's really awesome.
yeah, definitely. It's cool to see. It really is cool to see. Like I know that song. Or hey, what are you
Yeah,
listening to, you know?
yeah.
So you 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 said you finally got the courage to kind of like, or like not the courage, but the confidence to
Mm.
go out and make your own music. What's a difference between being in a band, kind of like everybody's kind of doing something for the band, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
promotion or like talking to venue owners or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference, and like what kind of advice would you give a newer artist trying to get into the music scene?
Um, hmm. Kind of there's two questions there. Um, as far as like what's it like doing it like on my own, like it's got pros and cons like anything does. Like it's been really fun being in the studio, like making the music on my own without having to like compromise with anybody else, without having to there's a lot of compromise when you're in a group together. Like you're never going to get 100% in your way all the time. But now I can selfishly do whatever I want, and there's nobody to tell me no. So like musically, it's been awesome. It is tough in other senses, having less, you can't split the load. I kind of, for the most part, in the bands I've been in, I've been like the point guy anyway.
Mm.
So in terms of like the booking and the legwork and all that, like I've kind of been doing all that regardless. It's kind of part of the motivating factor of going solo was I was like, you know what, I'm doing it all anyway. I might as well just, do all of it literally. But
Mm.
I would kill to have, a live band to, go out and play with. So far I'm just doing acoustic shows because I don't have, backing band. I miss that for sure. But so it's trade offs. It's I'm having a great time with the project and really happy with the way it's going so far. But I definitely reminisce a lot on it's definitely the most fun you can have as a musician is in a room with other people making music together. So I do miss that. As far as advice, um, I think the big thing that people often don't understand when they set out to do this is like everyone always hears, oh, it's really hard. Oh, it's not gonna work out for almost anybody. The chances are so slim or whatever. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that whether it works out or not, it's going to be a long haul. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I've played with a lot of people who like 6 months to a year into it, like a new band that we put together, they're frustrated because we're not like playing to packed rooms and stuff like that. And I'm like, that takes years to get to that
Yeah.
point if you're lucky. And so I feel like a lot of people go in with kind of unrealistic expectations. They think it's gonna snowball really quickly, and you're gonna go from nobody to somebody in a very short span of time. And unless you're the one in a million moonshot
Hmm.
lottery winner, that's not how it's gonna go. It's gonna be a lot of schlepping beer to empty the clubs to play to the bartender and the other bands, and doing that over and over again, and seeing very slow but hopefully steady incremental growth in whatever ways you hope to see growth. Um, so that's basically, I think, the big thing that I would, if somebody's going into it with the expected, with the goal, the desire to like really take it somewhere, like pace yourself, don't get discouraged because it's it's a life of discouragement. I hate to say, but like that's really what it is. Like you have to be able to deal with failure. You have to be able to deal with disappointment. And you have to be able to pick yourself up and dust yourself off the next day and just forget about it and keep going.
Yeah. And it's a grind, right? It's a grind, just like anything else. If you're trying to learn something new, if you're trying a new project, or I guess I should say not new project because projects can be done really fast, but I should say a new career. Like a career is something that you have to work for because a career is something that you want to do for the rest of your life, right? It's not just gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen right away. And like there's practice, there's meeting people, there's talking to venues, there's talking to record label, or not even record labels, but like recording, like where you can recording studios, things
Mm-hmm.
like that, trying to find like, or maybe trying to collaborate with different people, or going to different shows, different events, like that all takes time. It all takes time, and it all
Yeah,
takes
absolutely.
like I've been stood up, and like I've been stood up already, or I've like people like don't show up, but it's not like everybody, things happen, and you just have
Yep.
to kind of, are you gonna stay stuck and say like, oh man, like, oh, whatever, or are you gonna keep on going, and it's just
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's those people that keep on going, they become successful because they don't stop. They don't stop. I
Exactly.
can say that in the past, like because I've had my failures, and in those instances I just stopped and I gave up, and I thought like, oh well, this is already done with, but I didn't go all the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes things aren't gonna feel that they're in going in your path, but I mean, as long as you took a fighting shot, like it's okay that you failed, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the mindset I've had my whole life. When I first started out doing this, like I didn't go to college right out of high school. I didn't end up going back and getting a degree. But like after high school, I said, this is all I want to do. To this day, this is all I've ever wanted to do in my life. Um, and like I certainly didn't succeed in any sense of the word. But I'm still striving. And like when I look back on the last 20 years that I've spent chasing the dream and so forth, like I can't say that I regret. Like I don't regret choosing not to go to college. I don't regret uh, you know, that I prioritize this over like financial security or, like a traditional career or anything. Like, I'd certainly, if I had made different choices, I'd probably be, in a better position now, like with career and the stuff that most people desire, but that's just not what I wanted. And I knew, and I still know that if I had done things differently, if I had, put this on a back burner or, treated as less of a priority. The only regret I would have now is that I did that and that I didn't give it everything I had. I always knew that I would regret not trying more than anything else and not giving it everything I had.
Yeah. And I think that living with that for the rest of your life, that regret of should I have done that? I think that's
Yeah,
just I wouldn't want to live with that. At least if you tried it and you failed, at least you could say that I tried it,
yeah,
it just didn't
exactly.
work. But if you just never did it or never tried it, you're always gonna think, damn, fuck, I should have just
Yeah,
done.
yeah. I'd always believe that if I just tried it, it would have worked out. I let myself down.
Yeah. And so then, I mean, so right now, currently, you have on Spotify, you have Drop of Water and your
Yep.
latest single, I think I Lost It out on
Mm-hmm.
Spotify. I'm sure you have other songs in like the back burner and you have other things that you uh why did you drop of Water first?
Um, Really, it was just because it was the first one that I felt was like ready. Um, my old band broke up at the end of 2023, and I kind of already knew that I wanted to do this, but it took me like I had to, build my confidence again. Because it kind of crashed after the band ended. I had to like write a bunch of new songs and start to find, like a new voice for a new project and all of that. And Drop of Water was actually written for my old band in the last like year that we were together, and it just never went anywhere with that band. We jammed on it a couple times, and it just never went anywhere because that band was kind of slowly dying. Um, and so when I got to the point where I was like, I just want to I just want to get in the studio and just fucking record something. And that was the one that I had taken it. I knew it was good enough that like I wanted to, still use it for something and not just scrap it. So I took it, I rewrote parts of it, made it better than it had been already. And then I just kind of like, I was like, I need to get in the studio. I need to do something. This one's ready. I feel confident in this one and I'll start with this one. And then like, as soon as I started tracking it, I started getting like having second thoughts because I was like, this sounds a lot like the old band. Like, is this going to seem like I'm just continuing the same shit and I'm not trying anything new? And, but ultimately, it does sound different from the other band because it's, there's no other musicians on it. The other guys from the band are on it, so they would have obviously, their contributions would have made it much different than what it ended up being. So basically, long-winded way of saying I needed to record something and I had basically one song that I felt good about going in and doing. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to do that one.
Yeah, and so when you first like so you're not in the band, like you're not in a band anymore, you're doing this by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. What's the did you already have this kind of like written for yourself or was this kind of like okay, you're starting fresh. You're just you yourself. This is what I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
start.
That's how every other song that I like, the other ones that I recorded and the ones that I have written, just in my back pocket right now.
Mm,
All of those were like starting fresh. This is new, this is me just doing what I want to do without having to fit into what we agreed our band sounds like or anything like that.
hmm
The Drop of Water I wrote like the last 6 months or so the band was together. We were trying to write new material and it just wasn't really working. And so I was writing songs for, the band, thinking this is going to be the next song for my band. And then when the band fell apart, I thought like, I think I had like three at that point that I had written that were pretty solid and fleshed out. And I went back and looked at them and I was like, oh, these two are just okay. Like, this one's really good. Like this one, has to live on in some form or another. And it just ended up becoming my first solo single.
And so then you go and you release, I think I lost it now.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a sense of like, okay, this is like you're starting fresh. What does that look
Mm-hmm.
like to you in like in the studio or when you're creating? Are you creating melody first, lyrics? Is it a mix? Like what does that look like to you?
It kind of depends. Um, every song's a little different, but by and large, my process has been like I hear a melody in my head, um, like a vocal melody. And I usually have like one or two lines that I jot down, and that's like the seed of the idea, and then I pick up an acoustic guitar and I start figuring out chords, and um, so it kind of all it all varies, you know. But generally, it comes from a vocal melody first, and I hear that, and then that kind of gives me the seed of, all right, that's the first part of the first verse or whatever, and then I just kind of piece it together from there, however it ends up coming out.
And do you think it's more yeah, like maybe a little when at least when creating the music, do you think it's more you think a little I'm sorry, a little more difficult trying that process by yourself, or do you think it's like more freeing doing that like yourself?
By and large, I think it's more freeing, um, because I don't have, like I said, I don't have to, like, so many times in the past I'll write something and then I'll be like, I know this guy in the band, he's not into this kind of thing. He's not going to be, too excited about this or whatever. And then you start either, decide it's not going to work, or you start trying to rework it so that it works for, the band that you're in or whatever. And so, like, the approach I decided to take with this project is that I listen to so much music. I don't like pigeonholing because I just can't. Like, there's so much, such a broad range of things that I'm influenced by. So I'm just letting every song kind of come as it comes. Whenever I've noticed that, like, I can look back a few months after I write something and, like, remember just from listening to it what I was, like, listening to a lot of at the time, because it just ends up inevitably bleeding into what I write, and it's cool. Like, I feel like as I continue on and I keep recording the stuff that I've been working on, like, every song is going to be a bit different. It's going to have its own flavor, and I'm really excited for that. Because in the past, like, trying to fit, like, the stated mold of whatever the band agreed it was going to be can be limiting. It can be difficult to do something interesting or do something new when you're, like, focused on fitting whatever genre tag or style that you've decided you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think genre is kind of going out the window now that independent
Mm-hmm.
artists and social media is like maybe show I mean not I want to say maybe like kind of not my show, but like kind of shows like this or like other pages where they're spotlighting artists and you're able to not really be defined or strapped down by genre anymore. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fusing of music, and I love when different elements of music or different styles and genres are fused to make like something different. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost it. Like there was like yeah, pop punk, but there was also like ska in there also. And I
Mm-hmm.
love like the horns. Like I love when
Thank
like
you.
I love like I love ska, you know, so I love when that
Me
style
too.
is also mixed with different elements as well. Like it's it's just nice to hear, right? So I think that
Mm-hmm.
the whole genre thing is just kind of I mean, of course, mainstream has to keep something like that up to, to put their different artists in different columns, you know what I mean? So it's not just
Yep.
everybody fighting for that one spot. Um, but I think, yeah, that's what I love about like independent artists and things like, and now this new social media like explosion of music is that
Mm-hmm.
the artists are not defined by genre anymore, and rather just by the
Yeah,
music
absolutely.
you create. So I think that's awesome. When you go, do you feel when you're creating something like that and merging like the two different genres, like do you do you think it's risky or is it just that's just what you put together? You know what I mean? What do you think
I
about
don't
that?
really, I don't really think it's risky, at least for me personally, because I don't really have anything to lose. Like, when I put
Mm,
out Drop of Water, nobody knew who I was. Like, my old band was nobody. Like, it's not like I had, like, a built-in following that was clamoring for my first solo release or anything. So, like, I do kind of have a little bit of that sense of, like, every time I release something new, am I gonna lose the people that have been listening to the old stuff because it's different? And I mean, I have a small sample size now with just two, but it doesn't seem that way with the two I've got so far. I'm interested to see the next one's definitely different from the last two, so I'm interested to see how that goes. But like by and large, I don't think it's risky. And even if ultimately I'm just enjoying doing it, and I think it's what I want to do creatively. It's the way I want to express myself. So like as much as I do very much want a lot of people to hear it and enjoy it, I don't like creating with the mindset of I hope people like this. I hope this is good for the world. Like if I like it, somebody else out there has to like it. Like that's kind of the way I see it. Like if I'm happy with what I create and I find myself humming it, then I'm sure other people will as well. And so I'm kind of not really thinking about like risk or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, the last question I like to ask Josh, I don't know if you've ever thought of this before or well yeah, but like if you've ever thought of it before, but what is Josh McKelvie's message to the world?
Um, if I had to boil it down, whatever I like to think I stand for, I'd say basically just like never give up. Like that's kind of the mantra I've been living by my whole life. Like I've been doing the music thing for 20 years, and I've had more failure than I could possibly catalog. Um, and I'm still, I'm in my mid 30s now, and I'm still, basically nobody. And I'm still fighting, and I'm still out here doing it because it's what I love, and it's the only thing I've ever been able to picture myself doing. And I've had a lot of people tell me you should not give up, but I've never really directly been told to give up. But so many people have been like, it's just not going to happen, dude. Like, just do it for you. Just pick up your guitar and your lyrics, and just do it for you. And, I reject that. Like, I am doing it for me because this is what I love to do, but I want to share what I love with the world. I mean, and that's anybody who's ever loved a band, like that band had to do the same thing to get that music out there for you to love them. And so that's kind of what I like to believe stand for is just perseverance and refusal to give up.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Josh, for, again, following along with me in this musical journey. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I get to kind of pick at your mind a little bit, and hopefully somebody also learned something from this as well. Some advice. You gave some great advice to us a little earlier as well. But for now, where can we find your music?
Yeah, I am everywhere. Any of the services, I'm on there. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Bandcamp. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. If you can find another artist on there, you can find me on there. And if you can't, let me know because I need to fix that.
All right, sounds good. Well, as we say at the end, everybody remember, be safe, be great. We share because we care. Peace.
Thanks a lot, Mikey. Take care.